When it comes to Dojutsu in the Naruto world, the focus oftentimes gets brought onto the Sharingan and the Mangekyo Sharingan because there are almost as many different versions of those eyes as there are Super Saiyan in the Dragon Ball manga. But what I tend to find most people overlook is the Byakugan, to the point where it gets downplayed by some fans, which is why in today's newest installment of the Kekkei Genkai Handbook over here on Naruto Explained, we're going to be taking an in-depth look at the Byakugan eyes so that you walk away with a far greater appreciation for the eye itself, and most importantly, we're going to look over some of the new lore that the eye has that comes to us via the Boruto franchise, because there is more information if you are not familiar with Boruto's anime and manga. So the Byakugan is a Kekkei Genkai that originally came from the Otsutsuki clan, with humans who belong to the Hyuga clan being direct descendants of Kaguya being able to access it. The eye is special for this reason, and it is placed among the three great Dojutsu in the Naruto world, with the other two being the Sharingan and the Rinnegan. The Sharingan being a mutation of the Byakugan and inferior to the Byakugan in several aspects, despite it being more popular than the Byakugan, and the Rinnegan is generally accepted as the strongest of the three. So what exactly makes it different from the Sharingan, and why is it that it is so easy to overlook? Well, for starters, the eye isn't as sexy as the other two, both in the design aspect as well as in how prominent the eye is in battles, which is a pretty big deal when it comes to battle shonens. For the majority of the Naruto series, the lore for the Byakugan, it was pretty straightforward. Unlike the Sharingan, which every Uchiha carries the Kekkei Genkai for, but not all of them possess the potential to awaken it, the Byakugan, it was different because for the entirety of Naruto's 14-year manga run, the Byakugan was something that you were just born with. It wouldn't be until 2015, when Kishimoto was making the rounds promoting Boruto the movie, that we would learn he forgot to give Boruto and Himawari Byakugans in Naruto chapter 700, stating that he'd have to fix it by giving Naruto and Hinata a third child, or else it would cause problems. However, this would be resolved via a retcon that we made in the one-shot manga titled The Day Naruto Became Hokage, where we'd see Himawari awaken the Byakugan, and then in Boruto episode 8, an episode that Kishimoto personally stepped in to rewrite the episode, as well as the following episode, the line, it would be added that not all Hyuga clan members have the potential to awaken the Byakugan. So this is a relatively new addition to the lore itself. Now let's go over the eye itself and let's break down everything before we get into some of the lesser known lore about the eye that you'll be unfamiliar with if you've only watched Naruto's anime. So the Byakugan powers, they are respected and they are coveted by nations like the Cloud Village for this reason. Part of the reason for this is that unlike the Sharingan and the Rinnegan, which when they're acquired by a third party and not naturally awakened by the user, they can never ever be shut off. The Byakugan, it is special because anyone who gets the eye, they can cut the eye on and off at will. So there isn't a constant chakra drain that having the Rinnegan or Sharingan that doesn't belong to you normally comes with. It's for this reason the Hyuga clan, they came up with this 400 IQ plan to have curse seals that they place on the clan members, most notably on the side branch members, so that when someone is killed, their Byakugan, it gets sealed right away in order to prevent the enemy from acquiring it. So if you want the Byakugan, you take it while the person is alive, or you have to take it from a main branch member. However, the Byakugan does come with some drawbacks. Like we see in Boruto's anime, after someone awakens the Byakugan, they require training to properly use it. And in the story, Naruto Retsuden, the 7th Hokage in the Spiral of Destiny, Naruto, he is given a training journal that belonged to Neji by Hinata that details Neji's extensive training with the Byakugan, detailing how to overcome the sensory overload that comes from having a near 360-degree field of vision, as well as his progress that he made self-teaching himself the Hyuga clan's main branch hidden jutsu. So that would be the gentle fist fighting style in the rotation. Only the main branch members are supposed to know those. The caution for the Byakugan, it didn't start with Boruto's anime or that Naruto novel we mentioned earlier, but instead it started in Naruto chapter 540, where we flat out see that overuse of the Byakugan, it has its own set of issues, including being unable to keep the eye active until the user is resting. The benefits of the Byakugan, they're pretty enormous though. You get damn near 360-degree field of vision minus the blind spot above the back of the neck. The visual prowess allows the user to see through any sets of walls. They can see underground, and they can even see through some barriers, but not all barriers. By the time we reach the Boruto era, Konoha under Naruto has developed smoke bombs that can block out all the visual powers of the Byakugan for as long as particles are in the sky, as shown when the smoke bombs are used on Ishiki, and it's for good reason. A true Byakugan master, so someone like Hinata, they can see 20 kilometers in the distance in a near 360-degree field of vision, which for reference, the most Neji was ever able to see was 800 meters in distance. On the other hand, the Byakugan in the hands of the Otsutsuki, it can see across the entire globe, as shown with Kaguya's Dojutsu powers being stated to have global reach, whereas the Sharingan can see chakra like a color and see every chakra on a cellular level, like Sasuke did when he was fighting against Deidara and he saw the bombs inside his bloodstream. The Byakugan, it can see on a much greater degree, being able to see the actual chakra pathway system of a person. So all 361 nodes in the system, they can see that, as well as the ability to easily tell the difference between a shadow clone and the real body, and even identify the chakra signatures of someone just by looking at them. And in the Naruto Shippuden first movie, it can also tell what chakra nature someone is using and what chakra nature they have an affinity for. The benefit to being able to see the chakra pathway system and the nodes inside of it is what gives the user the ability to either shut down the flow of chakra or control the flow of chakra of their target by how they choose to use the gentle fist fighting style when they attack their enemy. The Byakugan is also able to tell to a better degree than the Sharingan whether or not someone is placed under a genjutsu. A great example of the Byakugan being able to see if someone's under genjutsu or not, we can look at Naruto chapter 394 where Hinata, she is shown checking for genjutsu with her Byakugan, and in Naruto chapter 459 where Ao reveals it was the Byakugan that allowed him to see the 4th Mizukage was under genjutsu despite the 4th Mizukage being in complete control of his tail beast. However, where the Sharingan is superior to the Byakugan is that it has no natural defense against the effects of genjutsu, but the Byakugan itself is implied to be better at picking up on genjutsu, so it is a fair trade-off in my opinion. The Byakugan in the hands of Otsutsuki, it can also amp up genjutsu, like we see with Kaguya with the Infinite Tsukiyomi where she uses Byakugan to magnify it, and in the case of Momoshiki, his Byakugan can also see into the future via different people. He can see snapshots of the future, but as he says himself, he can't see the future, so obviously he didn't see that Rasengan coming for him. Other notable features of the Byakugan is that in the anime, we see Kaguya, she can shoot out shockwaves of chakra at her targets in Naruto Shippuden episode 461, which is filler, but it happened. And in that same episode, she can read memories. In Naruto episode 198, the Byakugan, it can see if a person even has the ability to mold chakra, and in episode 149, the Byakugan can distinguish the difference between chakra and body heat. So basically, they can serve as infrared eyes if you add in the anime filler. In those infrared eyes, they can also read your memories, though again, none of that stuff is shown in the manga. Also, via the anime, via Boruto's anime, it shows that the Byakugan does have precognition, something that it was loosely implied in Neji versus Hinata in the manga, but it was not fully confirmed until Boruto episode 8 where Hanabi used precognition, and that's the episode Kishimoto personally stepped in to rewrite. However, Kishimoto's tweaks to the lore, they aren't just the only changes that have been made since Naruto's manga ended back in 2014. For starters, the Itachi Shinden story of Daylight, we learn that a Konoha Anbu who is named Mukai, whose family on his mother's side left the Hyuga clan and married outsiders several generations ago, the Byakugan genes he inherited, they were so watered down that he only had a Byakugan in one eye, and the eye itself, it looked like a normal eye when you looked at it until he would activate the Byakugan, which would cause it to change in appearance into looking like a normal Byakugan as the veins began to start popping up around his eye. In the Boruto era science, it has also progressed to a point where there are drugs that Amado, the scientist who worked for Kar, created to reduce the powers of the Byakugan, and drugs that can be used to kill a person with the Byakugan Kekkei Genkai if they take too many of them, which is why Amado warns Naruto to never let Himawari or Hinata accidentally take the drugs he gives Naruto in order to slow down Momoshiki's genetics, overriding Boruto's DNA. Also in the Boruto era, via Naruto Retsuden, the 7th Hokage in the Spiral of Destiny, Orochimaru makes a ninja tool that is in the form of goggles that uses Hinata's chakra, which briefly allows Naruto to use the Byakugan at the expense of Hinata not being able to use chakra while Naruto Naruto has the goggles on, but there's so many kinks with this ninja tool trying to use a Kekkei Genkai that even Naruto has trouble using the goggles. And legend has it that Naruto guy, he's pretty damn adept when it comes to picking up on ninjutsu. Also, in episode 40 of Naruto, a little fun fact, we see that in anime-only scene that the Byakugan requires hand signs to use, but given that it's only been less than a handful of times in early Naruto that this appears to have ever happened, it looks like that's a miscommunication issue between the anime staff at Studio Pierrot and Masashi Kishimoto, who was obviously drawing the manga at that time. Finally, in the third Naruto databook, Kishimoto reveals that if two people have a Byakugan and a Sharingan and they ever link up together and make a baby, so let's say Sasuke rizzes up Hinata and then one day they get married and on the honeymoon Sasuke and Hinata have a kid, their kids would both have the Kekkei Genkai, one of the Sharingan in one eye and the Byakugan in the other eye, which this video on the left goes into that alternate timeline of what if Sasuke marries Hinata. So click on that if you're curious. And over here on the right, we have more videos from the Naruto Explained Kekkei Genkai Handbook.